Hello and welcome back to another episode of the FPL Stats Show, where we go through all the stats that you could potentially need to make any transfers or bench decisions for your team in the upcoming weeks. As always, we'll include stuff like DEFCON stats, attacking stats with shots, and expected goal involvement for defenders, midfielders and forwards, as well as clean sheet odds, goal projections and everything that you are going to need. So let's jump straight into our fixtures for this week. So we have a couple of decent fixtures on the cards this week, some potential for some big hauls. Some main standouts come along with Chelsea up against Sunderland at home. Sunderland haven't performed too badly so far, but as we look into the stats in this video, Chelsea are definitely favoured in that match and a potential to try and get some of those guys in. Newcastle also have a home fixture as well against Fulham. I would expect Newcastle players to do quite well there, definitely a clean sheet I would expect to be likely. Liverpool up against Brentford. Brentford have been doing pretty decently, but again it is still a nice and favourable fixture for Liverpool. Arsenal and Crystal Palace is definitely one of our difficult games this week. With Arsenal being at home, I would favour them a little bit more. Obviously, clean sheet wise, Arsenal have been absolutely fantastic recently, but Mateta and Crystal Palace are definitely not one to underestimate. And then we've also got Bournemouth up against newly appointed Sean Dyche with Nottingham Forest, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But overall, as a whole, I would definitely expect Bournemouth assets such as Semenyo and even Krupe Jr., who now with Evan Nilsson's injury, it looks to be the starting striker at only 4.5 million and is definitely one to keep an eye on. So this week we've already seen quite a lot of transfers getting used. Once again, Mohamed Salah is the most transferred player out. I think that's now 3 weeks in a row that he has been the most transferred out. And we're seeing a lot of Bukayo Saka's coming in. I imagine that's just the straight swap for a lot of people. João Pedro is another one that's coming out alongside Victor Gyökeres, two that I've constantly said in the past couple of weeks I think is a mistake. I don't think, with the fixtures that Pedro and Gyökeres both have in the upcoming games, in the upcoming weeks, are players that I would want to be taken out. But a lot of people seem to be bringing in the likes of Nick Woldemade and Jean-Philippe Mateta. Mateta is someone that hasn't really been spoken about by anyone really in the last couple of weeks, but obviously with that hat-trick in the last game week, he is a very popular player to bring in. So a lot of people going with the front three now of Haaland, Woldemade and Jean-Philippe Mateta. Gabriel as well, another popular player. Everyone seems to be bringing in Arsenal players right now. For me, Gabriel is by far the best Arsenal defender that you can go for. Has a good set piece threat. And of course some nice defensive contributions, which we are just about to look at. And then of course Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice, popular transfers in as well. Now we're also seeing Chelsea's other main attacking threat in Enzo Fernandez being brought out. Another one which I do think is a mistake, but obviously that yellow warning flag above him isn't really too great. We'll have to see tonight if he plays in the Champions League or not, but I reckon we're going to see 161,000 people massively regretting that transfer out if Enzo Fernandez is deemed fit for the weekend. So DEFCONs for this week, we have not really seen too much change. We have the same top three with Marcos Senesi, Nordi Mukiele and James Tarkowski, all still providing really nice numbers. Mukiele obviously with a huge haul, picking up a goal and defensive contributions. There's really no argument as to who the best 4 million defender is at this point. He is absolutely smashing it, and his DEFCON numbers are fantastic. Obviously that extra goal isn't going to happen every week, but it's obviously nice if you did play him, and I definitely would have played him last week up against Wolves at home, because the clean sheet odds were not too bad. So very well done if you picked Nordi Mukiele for last week. Van Dijk has regained his 4th place spot. He was I think 6th last week. Some nice DEFCONs from him up against Man United. I think he had them by half time. Joachim Andersen has picked up an injury, so we'll have to wait and see the duration of that as to whether he will be a sell or not, but he is still looking good for defensive contributions. Chris Richards is still the guy as well for Crystal Palace in terms of DEFCONs this year, beating out Max Lacroix, who has now dropped below the 10 threshold and at 13th, so he's really not going to be worth the money. I think if you are going for a Crystal Palace player going forward, you either go for Chris Richards for the DEFCONs, or in my case, Daniel Munoz, who is a fantastic option and we're just about to take a closer look at. We've also got the likes of Michael Keane, who has very nice DEFCONs, 9.84. He has 8 DEFCON points as well so far, so if you are looking for a cheaper option or a cheaper alternative to James Tarkowski, he is definitely looking like a really nice option. And with Branthwaite now picking up a hamstring injury, it looks as though his minutes are going to be a lot more secure. And down towards the bottom of the list, obviously we're speaking on Gabriel being probably the best defender in the game. 8.87 average defensive contributions per 90. He's picked them up in 3 games out of the 8 so far, and definitely the best defender you can buy right now. As far as attacking stats go for defenders, I obviously just mentioned Daniel Munoz, and for me he is going to be the best Palace defender that you can go for. In terms of attacking output, he's probably the best that you can get in the game as well. He is currently being beat out to Ricardo Calafiori, who is still smashing it for shots with 16. He's also got a very nice expected goal involvement with 1.8, and as far as it looks, he does look pretty nailed in the Premier League. Lewis Skelly started again in the Champions League, so that could potentially be the rotation there, with Lewis Skelly getting the Champions League games and Calafiori being the consistent performer in the Premier League. So I'm really not against going for him. Again, we also mentioned Michael Keane as well. He has 8 shots now in the league, put him in at 4th place amongst defenders, which is very nice. And again, a really nice cheap option to Tarkowski if you don't want to go there for that kind of money. There is a lot of not so great FPL options as well, the likes of Pascal Struijk and Dan Ballard. Not really going to be too great for you, but in terms of expected goal involvements, you can still see Gabriel in there with 1.3, but someone who has came into both lists now is Reece James. He has 7 shots and 1.2 expected goal involvements, and personally, he's definitely one of my favourite transfers in for this week. Obviously, we don't know how long that is going to last because his injury record is not good at all, but if he can get, a good run of game time, if he can stay fit. Chelsea have some great fixtures, which we're just going to look at, and he's definitely someone that I would be very much considering, because Sunderland at home, they've got Wolves at home, Burnley away, Leeds away amongst the next 6 game weeks. If he can stay fit for at least the next month or 2, we are looking like a very, very nice run. He obviously done very well in game week 8 already, and I would definitely be considering him if you can afford him. He's 5.4 million right now, and Chelsea obviously having the best defensive fixtures as well is definitely someone that I would be considering. Arsenal as well, up there with the best defensive fixtures. If you don't have Arsenal defenders yet, you have to get them in. Crystal Palace at home isn't going to be the best fixture ever, but Arsenal are, obviously the best defence in the league. And then following that, you're getting Burnley and Sunderland, where I would really be expecting clean sheets. So the Arsenal defence is something that I'd definitely be expecting a lot of points from over the next couple. Even after that, Spurs at home, they've got Brentford at home as well. I would be very surprised not to see at least 1 clean sheet amongst those 3 games, and they definitely could be looking at 2, even 3, but definitely looking at about maybe at least 4 clean sheets in the next 6 games from Arsenal, and absolute must-buys if you don't have them yet. Obviously, Senesi from Bournemouth as well is looking like a really nice option, more so from game week 12 onwards. You probably aren't going to want to play him in game week 10 and 11, but most of us do have him by now, and you're looking at Nottingham Forest this week, which is definitely a game to play him, and then a potential benching for 10 and 11 before coming into a really nice run of fixtures. Obviously, Palace in there as well, difficult fixture this week against Arsenal, but definitely playable fixtures for the next 5 game weeks following that, whether you've got Munoz, Gahey, Lacroix, Richards, all playable fixtures going forwards. So looking at clean sheet odds for game week 9, it is Chelsea and Arsenal at the top. So if you're looking to bring in any of those defenders, whether it's Reece James, whether it's Gabriel, Calafiori, Timber, definitely this week is the time to do it, because they are topping the clean sheet lists and have a very nice chance this week at picking up some points, and obviously going forward are definitely looking promising. So this week is the week to do it if you want Chelsea or Arsenal players. Wolves are looking really nice as well, with a nice chance against Burnley. Unfortunately, I don't really have too many great options to go for. Below that, we've got Newcastle and Bournemouth. Again, really nice options available, whether you've got Dan Burn, maybe Sven Botman, who is doing quite nice. Obviously for Bournemouth, you have Senesi. Definitely playable fixtures this week. On the opposite end, we've got Crystal Palace in at 19th, so if you do have any Palace players, it's probably next week that you are going to want to, either bring them in or look to play them. This week is not looking like a nice fixture up against Arsenal away from home. And if you've just brought in Nordi Mukiele after his 17-pointer, he is going to be another one that you want to bench. You're not going to want to play him in game week 9 because they only have a 9% chance of a clean sheet. He probably will get DEFCONs, but I don't see anything else coming from him. Looking at the midfielder DEFCONs, we have a new king at the top of the per 90 table, and is Florentino from Burnley, averaging 15.12 CBITR per 90. Now, if you do play Champions League Fantasy, you may know this guy from previous years playing for Benfica. He used to be a nice cheap option, a nice enabler that a lot of people picked up for ball recoveries, and he is doing the exact same for Burnley. So only 5 million, it could potentially be one to pick up. Personally, I think Granit Xhaka could be the guy. He's got 101 total CBITRs, which is one behind Caicedo, almost putting him at the top of the list. He has 8 defensive contribution points so far, and of course has that attacking output threat as well, and it's 6th for the per 90 stats, averaging over the 12 threshold as well. So if you wanted to pick an enabler, maybe you're wildcarding this week, personally I think Granit Xhaka is going to be the guy to go for. We also saw Iliman and Dye pick up 15 defensive contributions in game week 8, which has put him back up to 9th place in the total points. He's picked DEFCONs up in 2 games now so far with 82 total, looking like a very, very nice option. If you maybe wanted a cheap option to Bruno Fernandes, he kind of does offer the same thing, attacking output, he's on the penalties, potential DEFCONs every now and then as well, and he does seem to be matching Bruno Fernandes for that. And of course, he is a lot cheaper as well. In terms of attack and output, Cody Gakpo has taken first place for shots. If you watched that game against Manchester United, he was very unlucky not to score a few. I think he hit the woodwork 3 times, but he's now right up there for shots and right up there for expected goal involvement as well. Liverpool don't have the best fixtures coming up, but I think in 3-4 weeks time, it's definitely time to reconsider Liverpool players. And if Cody Gakpo is continuing this with Mohamed Salah not really doing too well, he is looking like a very nice option. Of course, he's about 8 million cheaper than Mohamed Salah. I think 7 million cheaper. Definitely looking like a much better option and a really nice route into the Liverpool attack. Bryan Mbeumo returned. He got another goal this week, someone that I have been raving about for the last couple of weeks. He's now up at 20 shots and 4.2 expected goal involvement as well. Still a very nice option, and still someone that I do prefer to Bruno Fernandes for the cheaper price. Semenyo is still killing it, as well as Morgan Gibbs-White, who's now up at 18 shots. We'll have to see how he does with Sean Dyche's new system. But we've also got a new entry into the expected goal involvement table, and it is Bukayo Saka with 3.1. Now, obviously, he did miss out in the first couple of games, and I'm expecting him to continue to climb the table with Arsenal's really nice fixtures coming up. So if you do still own Mohamed Salah, maybe it is time to sell him on to Bukayo Saka and free up some budget to do some other moves. As far as attacking fixtures go, we also see Chelsea and Arsenal at the top once again, which doesn't really seem to happen too often, but whether you're bringing in an attacker, a defender, it doesn't really matter as long as they're from Chelsea and Arsenal. They are looking like fantastic buys this week and going forward as well. Nottingham Forest are up there as well. Again, probably a wait and see. No one really stands out from Nottingham Forest right now. I think, again, I would give it a couple of weeks for someone like Morgan Gibbs-White. West Ham are looking really nice as well. They've got Leeds and Burnley in the next 3, but again, not really looking too great. Obviously, Nuno is the new manager. Was expecting something good against Brentford, and it was a pretty shambolic performance. And then down towards the bottom as well, we've got Brighton. Minty is looking like a really nice option. Not the best of fixtures, but not terrible fixtures either. And of course, he has a nice cheap enabler that you can potentially get in and just play consistently week in, week out. And then of course, Liverpool as well. Again, a lot of the fixtures, a lot of the weight on these nice fixtures is going to come from game week 12 onwards. Brentford away, Aston Villa at home. It isn't terrible, but then Man City away isn't going to be too great. Game week 12 onwards, you're getting Nottingham Forest, West Ham and Sunderland. To be fair, if you want Cody Gakpo this week, it's probably not that bad an option. Brentford and Villa aren't exactly amazing defences, and then you could maybe just bench him in game week 11, but game week 12 is definitely the time where we're going to want to reconsider our Liverpool attackers. And moving on to our forwards, Erling Haaland, of course, right at the top, but it's not such a big gap anymore after Mateta's performance in game week 8. I think he had about 10 shots in that match and accumulated about 3.7 expected goals, so he is now made a massive gap between him and third place, and it's now Erling Haaland and Mateta well at the top now with 9.4 expected goal involvements and 8.1, which is huge. As someone who owns Mateta and had owned Mateta for the last couple of weeks, it is fantastic to see. But if you have been watching the stats show recently, you will know that Mateta has been a very good option, and that return was coming based on the underlying stats. Victor Gyökeres as well is someone that I would not underestimate. Obviously picked up 2 goals against Atletico Madrid, and he is kind of looming the same way that Mateta was, with 3.8 expected goal involvement so far and 18 total shots. With games coming up, against Burnley and nice fixtures, I definitely could see him exploding as well, and definitely isn't someone I'd be looking to sell anytime soon. Igor Thiago is another one that is surprising people. He's in at 3rd for shots and 4th for expected goal involvement. So if you are looking for a cheap striker and you don't want to go all the way down to Krupi Jr. at 4.5, Thiago is definitely looking like a really good pick. Other than that, there's a lot of, not so great picks. Danny Welbeck, Jared Bowen, Chris Wood, Isidore. The only one in there that I'd maybe look at considering is, of course, Nick Waldemade with 2.8 expected goal involvements. Of course, missed the first couple of games, and by the end of the season, I would really expect him to be in the top 5 for expected goal involvements, and Newcastle's fixtures don't really look too bad. But if I'm being honest, if I had to pick a front 3 right now, it would be Haaland, Mateta and Gyökeres. Obviously that all depends on your own team. If you own Bukayo Saka, maybe Gyökeres isn't going to be the best option, but I definitely would want at least one of those two because the Arsenal fixtures look fantastic. And again, goal projections are really favouring Chelsea and Arsenal this week, so if you are looking to make some moves, Chelsea and Arsenal players are definitely the ones to go for. A lot of our mainstay teams in there as well: Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, Bournemouth. It looks like it's going to be a good week for our main players. Down the bottom again as well, Crystal Palace are not expected to do too well. 0.8 goals expected against Arsenal, so maybe if you are bringing in Mateta, similar to the Mukiele situation, he is probably just going to be a bench this week. I would just hold off personally on any Palace assets as good as they look. This really isn't going to be a good fixture against Arsenal for them, so maybe it's another wait and see for those guys. And finally, looking at our game week 9 captaincy, we have our live captaincy poll, which isn't as favoured to Haaland as I was expecting it to be. He does still have 69% of the total votes, but we're spread quite a lot, with 10% to João Pedro, over 30 people picking him, over 30 people picking Bukayo Saka as well against Crystal Palace, and 10% of people are still picking a different captain. Now that could potentially be maybe Semenyo up against Nottingham Forest at home, maybe even Gabriel for Arsenal as well. There is quite a lot of decent captaincy options this week, but when we look at our stats over on the left hand side, there's no real doubts as to who the best captain is going to be. Haaland is well above for the predicted points, well above for the goal odds as well, with nice expected minutes, and of course he has now scored in 11 consecutive matches as well. So no matter who the fixture is, away to Aston Villa isn't even that bad a fixture. Villa haven't been a great defence, sitting at 12th with 10.7 expected goals conceded. There is no doubt about who the best captain is going to be this week, and I would 100% be sticking it on Haaland. But that's going to be it for this week's stats show. As always, if you're looking for more of the stats that were in today's video, make sure to sign up for Fantasy Football Hub. Most of the stats will be down there, and you can use the link in the description to do that. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new, because we do this every single week. We will have our team selection video out as well later on this week, so make sure to turn on notifications so you know exactly when that comes out. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.